So President Trump inject high risk into the trade relation with China. We see a lot of worrying signs. He's threatened to impose 45% tariff on Chinese goods. And he named the Peter Navarro, the outspoken China critic and the author of Death by China, at White House head of National Trade Council. So people are worried about. So Ambassador, what do you think the direction of U.S.-China relation?
I think the direction of U.S.-China relations is uncertain in the sense that the relationship has become difficult, more fraught than in years past, in part a reflection of populist anti-trade sentiment that pervades parts of the United States as well as other countries, in part a function of anti-immigrant sentiment that pervades parts of the United States and many other countries, but in part also because of the view expressed by the Trump administration that trade has become extremely unbalanced between the U.S. and China, and that China has benefited from an open global trading system, but has not itself engaged in the kind of openness with respect to its domestic economy as one would have hoped.
So, Professor Huang, what do you think the possibility of the trade war between U.S. and China?
Well, the honest answer is we don't know. He doesn't have an economics team in place. To the extent that he does, those people who advise him, who are close to him, have a fundamentally different view about how trade and capital mobility contribute to the welfare of the United States and welfare of China. The way that I see it is that, he put out this idea that his administration is for America, America first. It's very important to be reminded of the fact no previous administrations in this country would say America second or third. And now we have an administration which has a very zero-sum view of trade and capital mobility. And that, I'm not a big fan of that view.
But that consequence can be very disastrous. This morning I heard on the Bloomberg, Steve Roach said, you talk about trade war, we don't see anything like that yet. It will be very disastrous.
It's a disastrous for both countries.
Yes.
So that's the key thing. If you really believe in the idea America should come first, you shouldn't engage in trade war, not with China, not with other countries.
Ambassador, you are the chief negotiator, as China joined WTO. We all know that accession to WTO make China's economy take off. Back then, 16 years early, at that time, generally speaking, people, elite policy leaders in the United States believe engage China is a good way. And most people in the developed country believe trade is a win-win solution. So 16 years later, why things change so dramatically? Most people, we are talking about trade war. We're talking about the lose-lose solution.
So first of all, I think China's entry into the global system is one of the most important historic steps of our entire generation. So when you think of a country that's taken 600 million people out of poverty, you have to say that what is being done economically is successful, and successful not just for the Chinese who've been brought out of poverty, but for the global system as a whole. Because it most assuredly can't be U.S. or developed country policy that poor countries should remain poor. Of course the United States welcomed this. It would have been irrational and counterproductive not to welcome that. And I think especially in the early years, China's reforms continued, it implemented its obligations and so on. It's more, from my point of view, in these later years, since 2008, that reforms have fallen off. But I would make one other comment.
Professor, I think we all understand, why so many people in the developed country are feeling not good about trade. Because, according to a data, like only 1% of global elite benefit from the 2 decades globalization, from 1988 to 2008. And also the big winner is the rising middle class in the emerging economy.
Those opinion polls are subjective, and they reflect the Chinese optimism, Indian optimism. That's only because they came so far from such a low basic level, right? Whereas, so the political disruptions in those countries, and long before Trump, there were opinion surveys that showed that in India, in China, in Poland, there's greater support for globalization in poor countries than there is in developed countries.